The message came late at night. Short. Cold. Dismissive. After everything you had given, your time, your attention, your loyalty, it felt like you were suddenly invisible. No explanation. No closure. Just distance where warmth used to be. You stared at the screen, replaying every moment in your mind, wondering what you did wrong. The silence grew louder than any words ever spoken. And in that silence, something began to shift. At first, the instinct is to chase. To explain yourself. To fix what may not even be broken. You feel the urge to prove your worth to someone who has already decided to overlook it. But this is where most people lose themselves. They abandon their dignity in exchange for temporary validation. Stoicism teaches something different. It asks a simple but powerful question: why are you seeking approval from someone who has chosen to withdraw theirs? When you are ignored, it feels personal. But often, it is not about you at all. People act based on their own fears, insecurities, and limitations. Their distance reflects their inner world, not your value. The moment you understand this, you stop internalizing their behavior. You begin to see clearly. And clarity is power. Instead of reacting emotionally, step back. Observe. Detach. This does not mean you stop caring, it means you stop depending. Your peace should never be at the mercy of someone else's attention. The more you anchor yourself internally, the less control others have over your emotions. This is the foundation of true strength. Silence, when used wisely, becomes your greatest weapon. Not the silence of resentment, but the silence of self-respect. You stop explaining. You stop chasing. You stop overextending yourself for people who do not reciprocate. And something interesting happens: your energy shifts. You become less available, but more valuable. People are drawn to what they cannot easily access. When you constantly make yourself available, you unintentionally lower your perceived worth. But when you focus on your own growth, your own goals, your own peace, you create a presence that speaks louder than words. You don't need to demand attention. It naturally comes. This is not about playing games. It is about reclaiming your power. It is about understanding that your value does not decrease because someone fails to see it. The sun does not dim because someone closes their eyes. You remain who you are, regardless of who chooses to acknowledge it. Redirect your energy. Invest in yourself. Build discipline. Strengthen your mind. Improve your body. Expand your knowledge. The more you grow, the less you will tolerate being ignored or disrespected. You will naturally gravitate toward environments where you are appreciated, not overlooked. Let them go if they choose to walk away. Not out of anger, but out of wisdom. Holding on to someone who pushes you away only drains your energy. Release them, and you create space for something better. Something aligned. Something mutual. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are here to live it. Quietly. Confidently. Unapologetically. And if this message resonates with you, if you are ready to stop chasing and start becoming, then subscribe to this channel. There is so much more waiting for you. There is a quiet moment that comes after you stop chasing, an unfamiliar calm. At first, it feels strange, almost uncomfortable. You're used to the noise, the overthinking, the constant need to fix things. But now, there is space. And in that space, you begin to hear something you've been ignoring for a long time: yourself. You start to realize how much energy you were giving away. Every unanswered message, every delayed reply, every cold interaction was pulling something out of you. Not just attention, but self-respect. And now that you've stepped back, you can finally see it clearly. You were not asking for too much, you were just giving it to the wrong person. Stoicism teaches you to focus only on what you can control. You cannot control how someone feels about you. You cannot control whether they choose to stay or leave. But you can control your response. You can control your standards. And most importantly, you can control how you treat yourself in the process. When someone ignores you, it reveals something important. It shows you where you stand in their priorities. And instead of resisting that truth, you accept it. Not because it feels good, but because it sets you free. You no longer waste time trying to change their mind. You simply change your direction. This is where your transformation begins. You stop seeking external validation and start building internal confidence. You become disciplined with your time. You invest in habits that strengthen you rather than drain you. You choose growth over attachment. And slowly, your identity shifts. You become someone who does not beg for attention. Someone who does not settle for inconsistency. Someone who values peace over temporary emotional highs. And this kind of energy is rare. It commands respect without asking for it. Ironically, when you reach this point, people begin to notice. The same ones who ignored you may try to come back. They may test your boundaries, see if you are still available in the same way. But now you are different. You don't respond out of emotion, you respond with awareness. You understand that not everyone who returns deserves access again. You've learned that attention is not the same as respect. And you've experienced what it feels like to choose yourself. That is something you don't easily give up. So when they come back, you don't rush. You observe. You listen. You measure their actions, not their words. And if they haven't changed, you walk away, without anger, without explanation. Just quiet certainty. This is what power looks like. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just steady and unshakable. And the more you live this way, the less you fear being ignored or pushed away. Because you know your value does not come from others. It comes from within. It comes from the way you carry yourself, the standards you uphold, and the life you are building. You begin to attract different people. People who respect your time. People who communicate clearly. People who do not make you question your worth. And suddenly, what once felt like rejection reveals itself as protection. Everything you went through had a purpose. It taught you what to avoid. It showed you what you deserve. And most importantly, it pushed you toward becoming a stronger version of yourself. If you're still watching, it means something in you is ready to change. Don't ignore that feeling. Act on it. Subscribe to this channel and stay connected. There is more to learn, more to build, and a stronger version of you waiting on the other side. There comes a point where you stop asking, "Why did they ignore me?" and start asking a far more powerful question. Why did I tolerate it for so long? That question changes everything. It shifts your focus from them to you. And in that shift, you begin to take your power back. You start noticing patterns you once ignored. The inconsistency you excused. The effort that was never returned. The subtle signs that you were being taken for granted. What once felt confusing now becomes clear. And clarity, even when it stings, is a gift. Because now, you can choose differently. Most people stay stuck because they keep hoping others will change. But Stoicism reminds you that hope without action is just delay. Instead of waiting for someone to value you, you raise your own standards. You decide what you will accept and what you will walk away from. No negotiation. This is not easy. Walking away from what you're used to, even if it hurts, requires strength. But staying in a situation where you are ignored slowly erodes your confidence. And over time, you begin to shrink yourself just to fit into someone else's limited view of you. That is a price too high to pay. So you make a decision. You choose growth over comfort. You choose respect over attention. You choose yourself. And with that decision comes a new level of discipline. You stop checking your phone every few minutes hoping for a message. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop creating excuses for someone else's lack of effort. Instead, you focus on what moves your life forward. You build routines that strengthen your mind. You surround yourself with people who uplift you. You engage in work that challenges you. You create a life that does not revolve around someone else's presence or absence. And in doing so, you become independent, not just physically, but emotionally. This is where true freedom begins. Because now, whether someone stays or leaves does not shake you. You appreciate people, but you do not depend on them. You enjoy connections, but you do not lose yourself in them. You have learned the balance that many never reach. And the most powerful part, you no longer feel the need to prove anything. Not your worth. Not your value. not your importance. You simply live it. Quietly. Consistently. There will still be moments when people disappoint you. That is part of life. But now, you handle it differently. You don't chase clarity, you create distance. You don't seek validation, you reinforce your standards. You don't react, you respond with intention. This is the Stoic way. Not to avoid pain, but to rise above it. And as you continue this journey, you will notice something remarkable. The more you respect yourself, the more others will either rise to meet that standard, or fall away. Either outcome works in your favor. So if someone ignores you again, you won't panic. You won't overthink. You won't lose sleep trying to figure it out. You will simply smile, refocus, and move forward. Because you finally understand something most people spend years trying to learn: you are not for everyone. And that is your strength, not your weakness. If this message is opening your eyes, don't stop here. Subscribe to this channel and continue building the mindset that will transform your life. At some point, you begin to feel a deep sense of relief. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. You are no longer trying to force connections that drain you. You are no longer shrinking to fit into spaces where you are not valued. You have stepped into alignment, and that changes everything. You realize that being ignored was never the real problem. The real problem was how much power you gave to it. How much meaning you attached to someone else's behavior. But now, you see things differently. You see that your time is limited. Your energy is precious. And where you invest it determines the quality of your life. So you become intentional. You stop entertaining confusion. If someone's actions are unclear, you don't chase clarity, you step back. You let people reveal themselves without interference. Because actions, over time, always tell the truth. And once you see that truth, you act accordingly. This is where emotional maturity begins to show. You don't react impulsively anymore. You don't let temporary feelings control permanent decisions. You pause. You think. You respond with awareness. And that alone separates you from most people. You also begin to understand the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness comes from depending on others to feel complete. Solitude comes from being at peace with yourself. When you embrace solitude, you stop fearing distance. You stop fearing silence. In fact, you start to value it. Because in silence you grow. You learn more about who you are. You reconnect with your purpose. You strengthen your discipline. You build a life that feels full, even without constant external validation. And that kind of fulfillment cannot be taken away by anyone. At this stage, something powerful happens. You become selective. Not out of pride, but out of self-respect. You no longer give your time and attention freely. People have to earn access to your energy. And this is not about being distant, it's about being intentional. You start choosing quality over quantity. Depth over surface. Meaning over convenience. And because of that, your relationships begin to change. They become healthier, more balanced, more real. And if someone cannot meet you at that level, you don't try to pull them up. You simply let them go. No drama. No bitterness. Just understanding. Because you've learned that not every connection is meant to last. Some people come into your life to teach you something, not to stay. And once the lesson is learned, holding on only creates unnecessary pain. So you release them with gratitude. Not because they treated you perfectly, but because they helped you grow. They showed you what you will no longer accept. They pushed you to become stronger. And for that, you move forward, wiser. Now, when someone new enters your life, you don't rush. You don't get attached too quickly. You observe. You take your time. You allow things to unfold naturally. Because you know your peace is worth protecting. And that is the ultimate goal, not attention, not validation, but peace. A calm mind. A strong heart. A clear direction. If you've reached this point, then you're not the same person you were at the beginning of this journey. Something inside you has shifted. Something has awakened. Don't ignore that. Subscribe to this channel and keep walking this path. Because the more you understand this mindset, the more your life will transform in ways you never imagined. There is a level beyond this where things become even clearer. You stop measuring your life by who stays and who leaves. You stop attaching your happiness to outcomes you cannot control. Instead, you begin to measure your life by your own standards, your discipline, your growth, your peace of mind. And that shift makes you unshakable. You realize that many people are not ignoring you because you are not enough. They are ignoring you because they are not ready. Not ready for consistency. Not ready for depth. Not ready for someone who knows their worth. And instead of trying to make yourself easier to accept, you remain exactly as you are, focused, grounded, and intentional. This is where your confidence becomes quiet. You no longer need to announce your value. You don't need to prove anything through words or actions. It shows in how you carry yourself, how you respond to challenges, and how you walk away from anything that disturbs your peace. And when you walk away, you don't look back. Not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself more. That is the difference. You begin to understand that every time you chased someone who ignored you, you were sending a message to yourself, that your value depends on their response. But now, you send a different message. You show your self-respect through your actions. You honor your time. You protect your energy. This is self-worth in practice, not just in words. You also become comfortable with being misunderstood. Not everyone will understand your silence. Some will think you are distant. Some will think you have changed. And they are right, you have changed. You've grown beyond the need to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop over-explaining. You stop over-giving. You stop overthinking. And in that simplicity, you find strength. Life becomes less complicated when you stop trying to control everything. When you accept that people will act according to who they are, not who you want them to be. When you let go of expectations and focus on reality. That is when peace becomes natural, not forced. You wake up with clarity. You move with purpose. You rest without anxiety. And even when challenges come, and they will, you handle them with a calm mind and a steady heart. Because now, you are built differently. You don't break easily. You don't lose yourself easily. You don't chase what runs away. You stand firm. And the truth is, not everyone will be able to handle this version of you. Some will drift away because they no longer have the same access. Others will feel uncomfortable because they can no longer control your emotions. But that is not your concern anymore. Your focus is your path. Your growth. Your peace. So the next time someone ignores you or pushes you away, you won't see it as rejection. You will see it as direction. A quiet signal guiding you away from what is not meant for you and toward what is. And that perspective will save you years of confusion and pain. If you've stayed with this message until now, it means you're serious about changing your mindset. Don't stop here. Subscribe to this channel and continue building the discipline, awareness, and strength that will set you apart from the rest. There is one final truth that most people avoid, but once you accept it, everything becomes lighter. You cannot be valued by everyone, and you are not meant to be. Trying to be accepted by everyone will only dilute who you are. It will make you compromise your standards, silence your voice, and ignore your instincts. And in the end, you still won't be enough for the wrong people. So you stop trying. You stop trying to win over those who are indifferent. You stop trying to explain your worth to those who refuse to see it. You stop trying to hold on to people who have already let go. And in that moment of letting go, you gain something far more valuable, yourself. You begin to trust your instincts again. That feeling you used to ignore, that quiet voice telling you something wasn't right, you start listening to it. You no longer need constant reassurance, because you've built something stronger than approval. You've built self-trust. And self-trust changes everything. It guides your decisions. It protects your peace. It helps you walk away sooner, instead of staying too long. You no longer wait until you are completely drained before choosing yourself. You act earlier. You act wiser. You also understand that respect is not begged for, it is demonstrated and then enforced. If someone disrespects you by ignoring you repeatedly, by treating you as an option, by failing to communicate, you don't argue, you don't chase, you don't plead. You adjust your access. You remove your presence. You move on. And you do it without anger. Because anger still ties you to them. Indifference sets you free. At this stage, your energy becomes your greatest asset. You become aware of where it goes and who receives it. You invest it carefully. You protect it fiercely. And because of that, your life starts to feel more controlled, more intentional, more aligned. You are no longer reacting to life, you are directing it. And here is the irony: the less you seek attention, the more you naturally attract it. Not because you are trying, but because people are drawn to those who are grounded, who are calm, who are secure within themselves. But now, attention is no longer your goal. Peace is. Growth is. Purpose is. You have outgrown the need to be constantly noticed. You have stepped into a space where your value is not dependent on anyone else's recognition. And that is a level many people never reach. So if someone chooses to ignore you now, it does not disturb your mind. It does not shake your confidence. It does not make you question yourself. It simply shows you where not to invest your time. And that is clarity. That is power. That is freedom. If you've come this far, then you are already becoming someone different, someone stronger, calmer, more aware. Keep going. Subscribe to this channel and stay on this path. Because the more you apply these principles, the more your life will reflect the strength you are building within. And as you continue walking this path, something even deeper begins to take root, a quiet confidence that no longer depends on circumstances. It doesn't rise when people praise you, and it doesn't fall when they ignore you. It remains steady, unmoved. Yours. You start to notice how differently you respond to situations that once disturbed you. Where you once felt anxiety, you now feel control. Where you once overthought, you now act with clarity. Where you once chased, you now choose. This is not luck. This is the result of discipline applied over time. Because Stoicism is not just something you listen to, it is something you live. It shows in the way you handle rejection. It shows in the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. It shows in the standards you refuse to lower, even when it feels easier to do so. And every time you choose yourself, even in small ways, you strengthen that foundation. You also begin to understand that not every silence needs a response. Not every distance needs to be closed. Not every person deserves an explanation. Sometimes the most powerful move is to do nothing, to let things be, to let people act, and to let time reveal everything. Because time never hides the truth. And when the truth becomes clear, you don't resist it. You accept it. You adapt. You move forward. There is no bitterness in you anymore. No need for revenge. No desire to prove a point. You have outgrown those reactions. You've realized that your energy is better spent building your future than revisiting your past. So you focus forward. You create goals that demand your attention. You build habits that require consistency. You invest in yourself daily, not for validation, but for fulfillment. And the more you do this, the less space there is in your mind for people who once distracted you. This is how you move on, not by forcing yourself to forget, but by becoming too focused to look back. And along the way, you will encounter people who recognize your value immediately. People who respect your boundaries without question. People who match your effort without hesitation. And these are the connections that feel different, balanced, genuine, effortless. Not because they are perfect, but because they are mutual. You will also become more patient. You will no longer rush into connections just to fill a void. You will take your time. You will observe. You will allow people to show you who they are before you invest deeply. And that patience will save you from repeating old patterns. Because now you are aware. Aware of your worth. Aware of your standards. Aware of your direction. And when you combine awareness with discipline, you become unstoppable in your own quiet way. So if someone ignores you today, let them. If someone pushes you away, let them. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough about yourself not to chase what does not choose you. That is your strength now. That is your mindset. And that is your edge. If this message continues to resonate with you, don't stop here. Subscribe to this channel and keep strengthening your mind, your discipline, and your purpose. Because the version of you that fully lives this out is powerful beyond measure.